I think probably one of the big surprises is also the ascension of Andrew Yang, him getting more popular and UBI getting more popular. The housing market, I think, is another one. The fact that it actually increased and the stock market went up, despite the fact the economy made a downturn. I think, even though I knew that that is the way that capitalism functions in America, it really kind of surprised me, despite knowing that, to what degree, that the rich and corporations are able to capitalize on the hurt of the common folk. Like that really
Yeah.
just showed its ugly head, in a big way in 2020.
It is incredible how resilient the winners in the American economy have been, in spite of all of the craziness of this year. And it, on the one hand, you feel like, wow, thank God the American economy is still so strong. On the other hand, you're like, well, that prosperity is definitely concentrated in a handful of industries and companies and states and maybe even metropolitan areas.
Mhm.
And at some point, the rest of the country is going to say, this is not working for us. And
Right.
obviously,
And
I
it
mean,
might catch up in 2022 as well. Right now, I mean, I'm just surprised that they're able to stay afloat as long as they have, like the
yeah,
big corporations and the billionaires.
yeah, it's amazing. Okay, before we jump on to 21 predictions, let me quickly rattle off some other observations that I was planning on hitting, but I see we're already an hour and a half, almost an hour and a half into our conversation, Josh. So we do need to look into the future. So my other observations about 2020 was, I would have been surprised if you told me that Andrew Yang was polling #1 for NYC mayor. I've been like, really? If he doesn't get this presidential thing, he's going to be cast aside and banished. And dude is stronger than ever. I would also have been surprised if you told me that after Trump lost, in the end of December, he would still be advocating that he had won, and his followers would still be talking
Mhm.
about how they believe he's going to be not inaugurated again. I mean, speaking of my famous brother, he actually bet me $100 that Trump is going to
Oh,
be the next president in this next term.
oh wow,
And
2024. Hmm.
yeah, like, and I was like, really? And
Hmm.
he's like, well, but you're gonna have to give me 40-1 odds. And I was like, done. So I won 100, or I'm gonna have to write him a $4,000 check. But
Wow.
I doubt Trump is gonna be in the Oval in like February or March. I just don't see that happening. But who knows? This is maybe weird. Maybe 2021 will be even weirder
Yeah.
than 2020. Um,
It's the new world.
Yeah. The last thing. Oh, and then we already hit all the other ones. So now for 2021 predictions, go ahead, Josh.
Oh
Hit
wow.
your first one. What's going to
I
be
think the
kind of
big,
surprising?
yeah, it's hard to say, like maybe more like projections than surprises. Just in general, I think it's getting accustomed to the new norm, like it's going to be like a mix of good stuff and bad stuff, and sporadic, the stock market going up and down. And we're just having to reacclimate ourselves to what it does it mean to live in this post-COVID world, right? Not that COVID's going to completely go away. I think that's still going to be coming and going. Um, I think we're also going to see people are looking for solutions and innovation. That's going to be big, particularly when it comes to things related to material goods and resources like food and housing and distribution of goods. I think that's going to be really important. People are going to rethink how the relationship to work and how we integrate technology as solutions. So that's going to become bigger. And then that ongoing restriction versus freedom, that's going to
Mm,
be more exacerbated, perhaps to the point there'll be riots and even potential violence. That's what I'm seeing for 2021. Cryptocurrency um, will become more talked about. And yeah, just questions about should we open and how should we open, and the spotlight being on whether or not Biden and Harris are going to follow through on any progressive policies, and are we going to have reoccurring payments? Those are going to be the big themes.
yeah. So it sounds like you are not of the camp that once everybody gets vaccinated, it's returned to 2019. You're thinking 2021 is going to have some fundamental changes to how people live, and there's going to be a lot of tension because of that.
Right.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I remember like right before the COVID thing hit in middle of 2019, I visited Tokyo for the first time, and everybody was wearing masks. And I remember looking at that as like, what a strange people. Like, why are they all wearing masks? And like, we would never, what an odd group. This is a weird culture. And who knows? I mean, some people think that even after COVID-19, there'll be other, viruses and pandemics, and we're just going to need to start getting used to mitigation methods as a normal, just sort of like getting ready for hurricane season. There's going to be like novel virus season, and as man keeps destroying the ecosystems of wildlife, there's just going to be more mixing of these viruses that historically have always been kind of far away in uninhabited areas. So let me share a couple of predictions on my side, and then we'll discuss. I'm going to make one that people are going to get pissed at me for, but whatever. I don't know that Andrew Yang's going to be mayor of New York City. I'm gonna take a risk here and say he's not. I'm gonna acknowledge that he's polling in 2 polls now, number one. But the second poll highlights that 40% are undecided, and the guy, he's got 17%, the other guy has like 16%. So it's not like a huge juggernaut here. And if anything that we learned in Iowa is that like running a campaign is hard, and they have rules, and you need a team, and you need an ability to execute against probably competitors that have been in New York politics for a long time. So for all those reasons, I'm not sure. I'll just put it out there. I will. By the way, I will support Andrew Yang for mayor. I will give him money. I will volunteer. But if I had to predict, I'm going to say that's a hard office to win, especially coming off of a presidential election run, and it's going to be tough. And their top topics are social justice, racial relations, police reform. These are not historically Yang kind of wheelhouse topics. So we'll see. The second one I'll predict is that I think, as much as I was dismissive of a third party in that whole Unity 2020 kind of thing, I would not be surprised if there are the beginnings of a third party for a different reason, which is that there will be, to Steve's point, these populist Republicans. But I think the traditional, let's call them centrist Republicans, corporate Republicans, establishment Republicans, where are they going to go? Are they just going to get kicked around by these, Trump-style Republicans, or will they decide to kind of do their own thing? Because if they're, it's sort of like their house got taken over by these Trumpists. And at some point you're like, well, I'm not even in control of my house anymore. Maybe I should just move to a different house. So I would be curious about a pragmatic centrist movement. And I'm not seeing a home in the Democratic Party. If you assume like AOC and the Squad and that whole side of the party continues to grow in influence, like where do the pragmatists go? So that'll be another second prediction. And the third one is, maybe I'll give a positive one. First major state-run pilot of basic income. It may not be the entire state, but it'll be organized at the state level. I don't know what state, but I just feel like the openness to direct cash support or relief or whatever is at an unprecedented level, and one governor is going to want to give it a try.
Okay, so I do think Andrew Yang will win.
All right, I hope you're right, Josh.
I do. Maybe call me naive. I think there's a lot of reasons to believe that he's starting in a better position than he
For
did
sure.
before people
Hmm.
even knew who he was on the
Yep.
national level. And he was a national level, now he's a national level, icon, like, in a
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
his own right. And so and he's made a lot of good connections. So I think that starting in at tied for number 1, that is a great place to be, okay? And plus we're in the COVID environment where people are looking for an answer to the economic woes we just got out of. As far as the whole identity politics and all of that, I really believe America is beginning to rethink that. Like a good portion of America is beginning to move away from that, and particularly after what happened with COVID and that those kinds of things. I think we're going to find it's going to be more centered on economics. That's why people like Haley or sorry, Judge Hawley, I think his name was, is
Hmm.
joining that dialogue with Bernie, and why Trump borrowed off of Bernie, like the whole populist message. That really is the future. So that's what I see. I think a really big 2024 group of Republicans battling over what does it mean to be a Republican? Are we going to go the sort of the progressive Republican populist route, or are we going to stick with the moderate? The same sort of battle we had within the Democratic Party in 2020 is what we're going to see in 2024. I know this is about 2021, but I'm thinking we're
Hmm.
moving toward that. I just don't think there's enough time for third party to gain the amount of momentum that it needs, mainly because a lot of this is going to be the bandwidth is going to be taken up by Biden and Harris, and focusing on, are they going to be able to get us out of the Trump mindset, and how are they going to respond to COVID? How are we going to get back to normal? Then 2022 is going to be focusing on the midterm elections. Then 2023, we're going to already begin where we were in 2019, with mainly focusing on the Republican primaries. As far as Kamala Harris, I mean, I'm seeing that maybe she has a really good opportunity if she picks the right VP. I know that Pete Buttigieg, despite a lot of us progressives not really particularly liking him, very popular with a lot of people.
Hmm.
She selects him. Andrew Yang gets to be New York mayor in 2021, 2022. He's setting really pretty there to be Kamala Harris's VP. You know what I'm saying? He can run a pilot for UBI in New York. As far as the third party, ultimately, I think that people that are interested in that, they've got to get ranked choice voting first. They got to rethink, how can we get into the debates nationally? Instead of just getting 15%, maybe we can get that down to 5% or 10%. Then I think that we can start thinking about third party. I'm seeing that being later on, maybe like 2024, 2028. That's kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and to clarify, I think I probably should have said that there will be a splintering of the Republican Party, kind of the same way that in the Democratic Party, you had the Bernie, and then you had the moderate Democrats. In the last 4 years, you've not seen that diversity of opinion in the Republican Party. It
Right.
was like you're either with Trump or you're kicked out. But I think there will be a little bit of air to allow these factions in the Republican Party to kind of coalesce around, like the Romney McCain style Republicans, and then the Trumpists.
Right.
And those Romney McCain style Republicans are not going to. I agree. Starting a third party is super hard. I don't know that they would start a third party anytime soon, but I think we'll definitely see a really interesting tension, and that will surface probably now we're going to project out in the 2024 presidential primary
Yep.
for the
Exactly.
Republicans,
Right,
right?
right. Or a number of Republicans will migrate over to the Democratic Party, because
Yeah,
really,
maybe.
for all intents and purposes, that even you were a Republican and now
I was.
you're Democrat, because it makes sense, right? It's logical. Because for all intents and purposes, what we're seeing is the centrist Democrats are basically Republicans of
Yeah,
former years.
the old days. That's right. Yeah, I mean Biden, you and Kasich, like they could be from the same party, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, Interesting. Now let's talk about a couple other predictions. Let me ask you as a question, and then we'll wrap up, Josh. Do you see I have a couple more minutes?
Sure.
Okay. Do you think there will be a public health insurance option made available in the Biden's first term? I do want to acknowledge people who are supporting this content through our channel membership program. So if you're on YouTube, feel free to hit that join button, and you can help support more content and help us grow this channel, because obviously we are a little channel on YouTube, but doing my best to bring more data and kind of evidence to these conversations. So first of all, thank you, Kristen Slevin, our EVP, highest level member. And then we're going to go to our next level, our vice presidents, VLAM, JM Sap, Fat Lamb, Soldier One, Laura Lane, Joshua Frick, Patrick Dunn, and Boyce from Mindful Skeptics. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then we're going to go to the next level down, which is a hardcore. And we've got Mike, Gene, David, Tracy, DK, Landline, Phoenix, Jackalego, Kirsch, Mr. History Fan, Byram, Mona, Susan, Yang, Robert, Dean, and Stat Nerd. And then at the entry level, but still very much appreciated, are our verified nerds. Helen, Lisa, Sugar, Albert, Brandon, Yes, Brian, Peter, Arez, Hitachi, Your Maman, Jedwiga, Sophia, Gail, Shake and Make, Mike, Doris, Emerald, Nell, Lori, Ben. What happened? That skipped. Hold on. Ben, Roger, Lisa, Christina, Vaughn, Tony, Rasta, Ryan, Jessica, Blair Walsingham, Bike, James, Jalopy, Aaron, Emma, Joel, Spirited, KM, Hui, Stephen, Ira, and Shoni. So thank you all for supporting the Nerds for Humanity content. All the money goes to promoting the channel and supporting the costs of accessing data or podcast hosting fees. By the way, if you like audio podcasts, you can subscribe to us there too.
Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang. Yeah, yeah. Yang Gang 2020.